My hair looks terrible.
Hello,
Hello,
I'm Patrick.
and I am Listen to Repentant on Bandcamp.
Yeah, that's his name. That's what his parents named him. It's his
No,
legal name.
I'm Nick.
He was baptized as Listen to Repentant on Bandcamp. and, and his name is written in the book of life as Listen to Repentant on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
I don't know why we went there, but um,
Uh, yeah.
yeah. So because you're antsy in your seat, first of all, this is the five five of the best uh, metal bands you've probably never heard of. Not necessarily the five best metal bands you've probably never heard of, but five of them. And
Yeah.
before we get started, we're going to do an honorable mention.
An honorable mention.
Which is the band of Listen to Repentant on Bandcamp. Can you guess its name?
Yeah. So I put out an album yesterday. It was supposed to come out a week ago, but like CD Baby was annoying, and they didn't put it out. And there's still it's not on Spotify yet, but it's gonna be on Spotify soon. It's on Bandcamp right now. Um, it's pretty fun. It's like black into death metal, super melodic, and it's called Repentant, Verdant Death.
It
You should
is
listen to it.
sometimes super melodic. It is not always super melodic.
Well, if you want to hear a song about me fighting a troll, and a song about getting raped by trees, and a song about dancing with satyrs, and a song about dying, all on the same album, it's the album for you.
Dude, your description was in Bandcamp was so much more serious than the description you just gave.
Okay, so it actually tells the story of a time traveling druid who is trying to deal with humanity's progression. He goes backward in time to fight a troll, then he goes forward in time to again, then goes back in time again to ancient Greece, then goes forward in time once more to the future where all the trees come alive and start raping and killing people. Then he's like, fuck this, and goes back, and his family puts him in a nursing home, and then he dies. That's the story.
This sounds vaguely like Further from the Gray in certain ways, to be honest with you.
It's a fun album.
Yes, it's vaguely similar, and I'd say our music is also vaguely similar in Repentant and Necrourgica, but it's a
So,
different
so
style. Um, um, he's got a different style here. It's good. It's good. I recommend it. I especially like the leading track or the track that you play first on Bandcamp, where magic fails.
yeah, that was the first song I wrote for the record, and it's the one I actually put the most effort into as far as lyrics go.
Mhm.
Some of the other ones are kind of improvised just to go with the story. But
Yes,
yeah, it's a fun record.
it's good.
So I guess let's get into the real show,
Yes, let's
shall
actually
we?
talk about what we're going to talk about and stop self-promoting here. So, we had decided there's one that we've been antsing to talk about at length for a long time, um, basically since we started this podcast and before. And then we also decided to do two more from each person, two of our picks individually. So let's say I started because we just talked about your music. So to keep it balanced,
It's fine.
I will begin. Um, and my first pick is a band called Dark Heresy. You listen to that full album? Uh,
Listen to this album today.
yes, they have one album, and their album
It came out
title.
last year, right?
No, it did not come out last year. It's way older than that. It came out in the '90s. It just Spotify is a
Oh,
liar sometimes.
Spotify lied.
Yes, Spotify is a liar sometimes. I want to know when it came out now. But the album title is a lot more memorable than the band title. The band is Dark Heresy, which is fine. It's it could be any kind of metal band, but the album title is Abstract Principles taken to their logical extremes. It came out in '95.
So the first thing I want to say is that album title sounds like it was written by you.
Yes, it does.
Like that's just like a very Patrick album title, and I'm kind of disappointed someone else has it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a really good album title. And honestly, that title's too good for this album.
Hey,
You
no,
know,
it's a great album.
it's pretty good.
Um, yeah. So, but it doesn't sound like the title.
Well, yeah, it definitely doesn't. The title doesn't fit
The
at
title
all.
doesn't seem to fit. I mean, it doesn't fit the music. It might fit the lyrics. I haven't figured out quite what's going on in the lyrics, to be honest with you.
So, how would you stylistically describe this record?
Progressive, somewhat doomy death metal with elements of folk and just lots of weird twists and turns.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. It's to me, it's predominantly traditional death metal
Yeah,
with just like a flavor here of progressive there and a flavor of folk there. You know, it's never ever just folk metal or death metal or something. It's just like it's straight traditional death metal, and then there's like no, we get a little bit of that and a little bit of that, sprinkle here, sprinkle there. You know,
I think they go in
um,
so many different directions that you have to call it tech death, but it's not like
I definitely wouldn't call it tech death. It doesn't feel like tech death to me. It feels very traditional death metal. It doesn't feel like tech death in my mind.
okay. Well, if you, how about progressive death? I mean, it feels like Edge of Sanity to me. You know,
I don't know, man. I got a very like it really felt like traditional death metal to me.
well, the first song starts out. The first song in particular is
Yeah, the
distinctly
first song in particular, you know, as people say, the first song and the last song are the ones that stick with you the most of the time,
well.
unless there's something really
The last song
outstanding.
is not traditional death metal. The last
The
song
last song
is
is kind of out there.
the last song is epic. There's quasi rapping in it for some reason. There's a lot of
Yeah,
organ.
that was off-putting. Also, the title of that song is kind of off-putting to me.
There's
Who the
organ,
hell is
but at the
Tyler?
same time, I don't know who Styler is. I have no clue. But um, at the same time, there's these mellow moments in it that are so I don't know. They really resonate. They're really haunting. Could we be as brothers, you and I? That thing? I don't know, man. How do you have a death metal? How do you call it traditional death metal when like it starts out with like an organ solo and then it gets really claustrophobic and the guy is rapping over it, but then there's a folk section and it calms down and dee doo doo and they start singing hauntingly and it's 10 minutes long. Come on, dude, this
Yeah,
is tech
that track is progressive metal, but I
death.
would say overall the rest of it is traditional death metal.
But there's
I mean, maybe it
the
gets
last
more.
temptation of Pan is extremely folky. And there's weird stuff like the ceremony. That's just a weird like bizarre dissonant circus, and Hole which has swing in it.
It's an out there album for sure. So I really liked the idea of this album. I liked the idea of their style. I liked where they were taking things. However, I wasn't crazy at the execution. I thought the production felt very like Florida death metal, and that's a style I really hate.
I agree. The production is lackluster on this album. It does
Yeah,
seem to just
there's such a thing as
distract.
raw production, and there's good production, and like there's bad production. And I've always found like you know the necro sound you can get in like Dark Throne and stuff like that. That tone is bad production for an atmosphere. But I've always hated the Morris sound type of tone that you
Yeah,
get on like Morbid Angel and stuff like that. And Morbid Angel, the music is good enough for it to surpass. But even like a lot of early Death had that terrible kind of
I think
super
Altars of
scooped
Madness.
production.
Yeah, I think Altars of Madness falls out of that trap and escapes it. But Morbid Angel
A
after
little
that.
bit.
Yeah, but Morbid Angel after that was like Covenant, really bad
Yeah.
production. Covenant
So
has
so
really bad production, and this has
the
production which is a lot like Covenant.
the biggest offender of this one's obviously Cannibal Corpse, the more sound.
Yeah,
The Florida death metal tone, which everyone thought was the cleanest thing in the world back in the day, but really just sounds like shit. Those albums don't hold up with their production, and I feel like this album really has that problem.
it suffers from it, but at the same time, I'm pretty willing to put it aside because the music is quite good.
Where's this band from?
This band's from England.
I'm really curious to see if they came to the United States to record in the Florida.
If they recorded in
Same.
Morrisound, I'm gonna be mad because that's such a waste. Um, no, Element Studio. Do you have any idea what that is?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where Element Studio is.
Let's
Probably
look it
somewhere
up.
in England.
Probably.
But
Element.
yeah, if you're trying to form a band, and especially if you're a death metal band, and you're thinking, yeah, we want to go for that Florida death metal tone, you're wrong. Just
Don't
don't
do
do
that.
it.
Don't
So
do that.
there's
Do
there's two
Sweden
schools of thought.
instead.
No, really. I think there's two proper schools for good death metal tone.
Yeah,
There's the Swedish tone, which is your HM2 into an
correct.
EBH
That's one of
style
them.
tone, and the other would be like your super modern, really clean tone, which I can't for the life of me come up with a band off the top of my head that has a Flesh God Apocalypse. They have a
Okay.
very, very clean production.
I think that
Even
most.
Behemoth.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, mostly. But first of all, there are some bands that need to do caverncore. You're forgetting caverncore. There are some bands that
And what
need
is
to do
that?
caverncore. Caverncore is the style used by Incantation.
Okay, that's a little different, sure.
Yeah. So some bands need to do caverncore, and also some bands need to do the thrashy death style that is popular in lowlands death metal, like Asphyx, Pestilence, and Sinister do this type of thing, and it sounds more thrashy, I think.
I personally like the very modern production.
I don't mind modern
Again,
production in death metal as long as it's not like crazy triggered and all that kind of stuff.
I think the best kind of modern production you could hear would be either on From Mars to Sirius by Gojira or Nightmare Logic by Power Trip. I think those albums are phenomenally produced. Also,
Logic is not modern production.
I think it's great. I think
It's
it's
so
great production.
retro though. It is so retro. You got
But
it.
it's those guitar tones, man. Now the other one that I really like is Woe to the Vanquish by Warbringer. That production's great.
Sure, but that's not death metal. We're wandering out of death metal territory here.
Oh, but I think that kind of production is applicable to death metal too.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about though. Mainly with like bands like Asphyx and Sinister, they need something
Yeah,
very similar to what Warbringer do, and they did it back in the '90s. They did. I mean, it wasn't as quality as Warbringer because they were working with '90s equipment that they could afford in the
yeah.
'90s as a death metal band. But yeah, but Florida's sound is just like the majority of Florida sounding bands are just wrong. There's just terrible production
And
around there.
what makes Florida able to overcome that is the absolute quality of some of the music.
Yeah.
Like I know I've shit on death metal a lot in these past couple of episodes. It's no secret that death metal isn't my favorite subgenre of metal.
Mhm.
But like Death, Morbid Angel, those bands really stick out. And then you get a band like Cynic, and Cynic is just outstanding.
Yes. But
Cynic, good.
Cynic is good. Uh, Dark Heresy, though, is
Oh yeah,
also
Dark
good.
Heresy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you can get past it and listen to Legion, Legion has much worse production than Abstract Principles taken to their logical extremes. And I like Abstract Principles taken to their logical extremes probably more than Legion. And I like Legion a lot.
We're referring to Legion, the Barathum
Deicide.
album.
No, Deicide
Deicide, okay.
Legions. Not Legions of Percolate. That's an entirely different animal.
Okay. Yeah. So again, it's not as good as Deicide, but it's a pretty good, unheard of album. So it's got the best title in all of death metal.
Possibly. Possibly. I like Unquestionable Presence. That's a great title.
For what it is, absolutely.
Yeah.
However, if there were an atheist album
Called
called this,
Abstract Principles taken to their logical extremes, that would be so appropriate.
that would be appropriate right there. It could also fit to a Voivod record.
Yeah, exactly.
It would also be a terrible Dream Theater record, but they would do it.
Yeah, not what you were expecting though. Not what I was expecting. I also listened to this album on the basis of I was looking at tech death bands on Rate Your Music and trying to find, something interesting. I saw this title and it's like, ooh, sounds like it's going to be real crazy. Like they're taking tech death to its logical extreme. They are not taking death to its logical extreme.
No, they're taking it to one of the extremes, the least technical side of tech death.
It's logical moderation.
It's logical moderation. There we go.
There you go. But speaking of the different animal, that is Barathrum. Why don't we move to Barathrum next?
Yeah, so Barathrum is a band I stumbled across by accident when researching doom metal bands of all things. And I stumbled across the track Corpse Desecration, and I saw the title. I'm like, okay, this has got to be some Sarcophago shit. And I listened to it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is good.
Yeah,
So,
it is some Sarcophago shit, though.
so Barathrum's album, NLS Vera, is what Sarcophago wanted to be.
Yes.
And their next album, Legion of Percolate, is kind of more on the war metal side, and it has a track called War Metal.
Yeah, but it's not war metal at all. So
Well, they
here's the
certainly
thing.
were claiming
Here's
to
the
be.
thing. Nick, I don't think is familiar with what war metal is necessarily, but I'm
You
trying to tell you.
described Barathrum as
I
war metal to
did.
me.
I know. I know. I Let me finish. So I described Barathrum as war metal because I heard Corpse Desecration, and that is totally a war metal song. But Corpse Desecration does not sound like Legions of Percolate. It doesn't.
A little bit, I
I
guess you're
mean,
right.
the tone is similar. That's true. But like for the most part, Legions of Percolate is much more melodic, and it sounds like more like a mixture of like. It doesn't sound like Sacrofago. It sounds like a mixture of like Rotting Christ and Witchfinder General is what it sounds like. You know?
That actually makes more sense. So I retract my statement and go with what Patrick says.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a fun album for sure. I would recommend Corpse Desecration first as your first bathroom track because it's just pretty badass.
Yes.
But this
Corpse
album's got
Desecration.
like a lot of black and roll type of vibe, but it's
Yeah.
way heavier and cooler.
Yeah, it's like Greek, Greek black metal, very heavy metal in it. But they've also got more of a doom vibe to it. It's just somehow it feels high pitched enough and also low pitched enough. It's high pitched enough to be black and low pitched enough to be doom. It sounds like how do you pull black doom off? There's various ways you can do it. Um,
And Barathrum does it.
yeah, Barathrum does it in a way that I'm less expect. Normally, when I hear Black Doom, I expect something that has like the high pitched twang of black metal, but it's just done in like a desolate and depressing and slow way. That's not really what Barathrum are doing. Um, they somehow sound like super high and super low at the same time, which I think is because their bass is very prominent. Um,
Yeah, they've got a pretty good bass tone in there.
and meanwhile, the riffage is just it's between Greek black metal, which sounds a lot like heavy metal, and like old school doom metal, which also sounds a lot like heavy metal. So it winds up sounding like a very heavy metal, extreme metal album, um, and it's very fun. I was I was surprised. I was not expecting it to be bad. I was expecting it to be more Corpse Desecration, which is like sort of Sacrofago war metal, that kind of thing, all potato. But this was much more melodic and fun. Um,
So
I enjoyed
Wikipedia
it.
classifies this album as blackened doom.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
So yeah, let's go with that for Barathrum, the good old Finnish blackened doom metal band.
Even though they have a song called War Metal, that song is Black and Doom. But Corpse Desecration, which Corpse Desecration is totally a war metal song though. Corpse
Oh
Desecration
yeah,
is different from what they're doing most of the time. But Barathrum,
and some of their song titles on the same album as Corpse Desecration are pretty great. So you've got Crucifix Masturbation, an Angel Raper. That's very Sarcophago like, don't you think?
yes, very war metal, very war metal. I didn't listen to the rest of that album. I just listened to Corpse Desecration because you said listen to Corpse Desecration and then listen to Legions of Percolate, so I did.
Yeah,
But
because Corpse Desecration is my favorite one of their songs, but Legions of Percolate is like the definitive Barathrum album.
yeah,
So,
so that's interesting. Get you a man who can do both.
oh yeah,
Um,
Barathrum certainly can.
Barathrum certainly can. So I don't think there's much else to say about uh, Barathrum here. There probably is, but we're not as deep into them as we could be. I'm not anyway.
Yeah, I had to Google them to find out what country they're from. So
Finland, of course. Legions of Perkele, you know.
that makes sense.
Man, I love Finnish metal. There's so much great Finnish metal out there.
Well, the reason why there's so much great Finnish metal is because it's got the most metal bands in it.
Yeah, it does have the most metal bands in it. And the reason for that is because Finns are weird and introverted, and it's cold, and there's forests there and stuff like that. It doesn't have the most metal bands in it. It has the most metal bands per capita, though.
Who has the most metal bands? Is it the U.S.?
Probably,
Probably, yeah.
yeah. But the most metal bands per capita is Finland. Yeah. So that's Barathrum, I guess. I think we'll talk probably for a longer time about my next pick, which is Anacrusis.
Yeah, Anacrusis is like a really weird proggy thrash band. It's like when I heard about them, I thought they were gonna be toxic, like a toxic clone, and then I listened to them like, no,
No,
no.
no, 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 no. Yeah, weird proggy thrash. I wouldn't even describe them as a weird proggy thrash. I mean, sometimes they do weird things, but the thing about Anacrusis is, man, they flow. You know.
Yeah, there's a very intense flow to their music. It's very well thought out.
It's you know what I would say about Anacrusis? It's cool. You know, it's not when I listen to proggy thrash. Normally, I'm expecting something just like super nerdy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's jangled together and it doesn't have any sense of flow and it doesn't feel groovy and badass in the way a normie would say. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate
yeah.
that kind of music, but Anacrusis, it just flows together, man. It's just uh, calling
So
it prog is a little weird. It doesn't even feel entirely like prog, but it's better to describe it as prog than anything else. You know what I mean?
yeah, one of the feelings I've always gotten from Anacrusis is I know I don't believe this album came out in the 80s.
No,
Am
93.
I wrong? 93? Okay, but it's actually got a very late 80s feel to it. Like it reminds me of a lot of like late 80s cinema soundtracks. It's got a very like open, reverby, cavernous feel to it. You know, especially when they have clean guitars, that they just have this cavernous reverb on there that just opens up, and the guitar is kind of in the back of this reverb, and that sounds off-putting. It's a really bad way of describing it, but it really kind of gives it that spooky kind of like, you know, urban
Yeah,
stealth kind of feel.
yeah. This album is so November to me. You know what I mean? It's just cold,
Uh,
not in a winter way. It's just like
yeah,
cold enough. It's got that kind of space to it. Um, but besides that, yeah, I do agree with the spooky sort of stealth thing. I do agree it's pretty 80s. The production on this, contrary to the production on Dark Heresy, is one of the highlights. The production on Streets
yeah,
of the Whisters is like stunning, honestly. Like for an
and
underground band in the 90s to have
it's a
that on there
weird production.
is great. Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. Um,
It always kind of makes me get a vibe of a movie you'd probably hate. For some reason, this album has always reminded me of the 1988, I believe it was 1988, it might be 89, the 1988 film Jason Takes Manhattan,
hmm,
Friday the 13th, Part 8. The worst of the Friday the 13th movies. However, it's just, I can just envision Jason Voorhees walking through Times Square to sound the alarm. It just
stop.
has that vibe.
Can we just talk for a second about how amazing Sound the Alarm is as an opener? Let's just talk literally about Sound the Alarm for a second.
It doesn't even like I didn't like when I heard it the first time. I wasn't expecting it to be the first track on the record because again, the way I visit bands is I'll listen to their top few songs, and if I like their top few songs, I'll jump into an album.
hmm
So I'd heard "Sound the Alarm" before I jumped into "Screams and Whispers" the first time, and when "Sound the Alarm" was first, like, huh, I didn't expect that to be first, but it just worked.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's an unsuspecting opening track, but that can be the best.
Well, I mean, I don't know. For me, I was the first song I heard was "Sense of Will," um, but we'll get to why that song's awesome too in a minute. Because I don't know. There are a bunch of songs on here that I feel like I need to rant about individually because they're so good. Um, but Sound the Alarm, it's got such a dynamic range. There's such a dynamic
Yeah.
range in this album, especially. But just the way it opens up, it's extremely quiet, and psychedelic chorused, delayed type clean guitar, playing a faint but like suspense-filled minor key melody, and then it just bursts in with like a rush of like extremely loud, thrashy but still melodic, tense feeling stuff, and it just
More
escalates
importantly,
that.
the riff feels the same. It feels like the same, rather than the next logical step to the original melody.
Yes, but just so much louder. It's just the dynamics of it, and then for the verse they get back that there's a post-punk feeling to it. There's a Cure-like feeling to it. You know what I'm saying?
I never listened to The Cure, so I couldn't tell you, man.
Okay. Well, it's got that kind of chorus, weird delay guitars, and sorts of psychedelic effects going on in various parts throughout the album. I think The Cure was probably a huge influence on this. Or Killing Joke. Have you listened to Killing Joke at all?
Nope.
Okay. Well, it
I've read
also
the comic
sounds
book.
also sounds considerably like Killing Joke. The band came before the comic book, I think.
I don't believe that. Hold on, we need to find that out.
Um,
We're
but
googling this.
you Google this and I continue to talk. But yeah, there's so much tension in it, but it's all just minor key in Sound the Alarm. Um, but it goes into like just really passionate feeling, epic melodies the whole way through. Um, but it's simple. It's weird that I would even consider something like Sound the Alarm. If I had just heard Sound the Alarm,
Whoa,
how do you
you're
consider it?
right.
Yeah. How do you consider it?
That's fascinating.
Yes. But Sound the Alarm doesn't even feel like prog. Overall, it's weird that we even consider this prog because it doesn't do like crazy things structurally. It's usually, I mean, there's only a few times when it goes out of 4/4 or 6/8. There's only a few moments during it, but it's just so. There's just always a weird tweak to any of these songs. You know what I'm saying? There's just always something
Anacrusis is
different to it.
progressive because there's nowhere else to put it. It's just
Yeah.
something completely different.
Yes.
And it's a shame this band didn't get bigger than it was, because these guys, I think if they had the ability to really dedicate a lot of more of their time into being a band, then I imagine they probably had to get day jobs eventually.
Yeah.
I think they would have been made some really great music.
Yeah. The bass stands out. It's not so much a rumbly bass. It's actually the kind of thing that Blackie does. It's a little angular, a little mid-range, um, and I think accentuates the sound of the guitar very well. The vocals are excellent the whole way through, um,
Yeah, good clean vocals, and
with
it's
traces of
hard to
screams in it.
it's hard to get a raspy kind of clean vocals to be that good, and
Mhm.
especially if it's in more mellow music like
Yeah,
Anacrusis kind of is. But
sometimes.
especially, yeah, especially on a track like Sense of Will, he does a great job.
Oh man, Sense of Will. The thing about Sense of Will is, okay, Sense of Will, I think we could stick into another genre, and that genre is groove metal. But if we call it groove metal, it's the best groove metal song.
Yeah, it's got a groove to it for sure.
It is so groovy, and it's got that like
You can bang your head to it.
which is great, great. But then when it goes into the harmonics, see what really made it is when it changed
Yeah,
to. It's really like pinching up there, and
they really like their pinch harmonics.
yes, they really do like their pinch harmonics. They really like their pinch harmonics, their delay, their clean guitar. You remember Division, where the guy's just blasting and like hitting, not literally blasting, but like going like really hard thrash vocals over the weird clean guitar riff that's very dissonant. You know,
Yeah,
the entire verse is clean guitar over like fast drums, but it's dissonant and everything like that. There are just so many moments like this. on Screams and Whispers, and every song is memorable in its own ways. It's got its synth feeling. It's got great production. Uh, what else can I say about it?
Jump onto the thing about their dynamics though, because
Yes.
I think Anacrusis manages to do dynamics better than a lot of bands out there, because
Yeah.
dynamics are really kind of an underappreciated thing in the metal genre. And every moment you get goosebumps in a song, that's because the dynamics are what brought you there. It's the dynamic change, the progression of the dynamics, which is what's giving you those goosebumps. It's how you take a very pretty riff or a very emotional riff and make it a riff that will make someone else feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And most death metal bands, I think, completely forgo this. I've mentioned At the Gates as a standout band that doesn't forgo this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of thrash metal bands do too. The chief of that problem being Slayer. Metallica and Megadeth are actually pretty decent at it.
Mm-hmm.
But like Slayer and the bands that came after Slayer kind of forgot about it. Anacrusis, this is not the case though. They're masterful at dynamics.
Yeah. And transitions and a sense of every song being different. There are so many albums that I listen to that are good the whole way through, but at the same time, I feel myself glazing over after several songs because it's the same. It's not even that it's the same riffs or that it's boring in that sense, but there's just no sense of either dynamics or timbral change or just something to distinctly catch your attention and refocus you on the actual music, which is a problem that Anacrusis never runs into because there's just always, I mean, some gimmick, I guess, but it's not a gimmick. It changes the whole landscape of the song, what they're doing, and you can talk about each song individually and what makes it different from the others. They're all standouts. They're not all equal quality. Some are better than others. There are a few moments which are not quite as strong. They're like a 4 stars instead of a 5 star moment. But overall, this album
Yeah.
is like extremely strong, extremely strong. Like I feel like the 5 star songs outnumber the 4 star songs.
Yeah. So I think the thing that holds Anacrusis back is they don't have any songs that like feel like a super hardcore banger. Like I don't get a song like you know I'm trying to think of like a great example. Like they don't have like a Holy Wars moment where like it's just like, yeah, it's Holy Wars, like a Raining Blood moment. I think if they did, it would be that would be what takes them forward.
Well, with them, it's melodic moments that are super strong, though. It's not the aggressive moments
Yes.
as much, I would think. But they do have moments like that are just so powerful in a melodic
No,
way.
I'm aware. I'm aware, but I'm saying is I feel like they if they had just made one banger, Anacrusis would have blown up.
A Sense of Will is kind of a banger, dude.
It's as close as they get. And I'm not saying it's bad. I think there's a banger is a specific type of song, and A Sense of Will is very close, but it is not that type.
Okay, what about My Soul's Affliction?
I stand by what I said.
This silence, deafening, can't decide. Watch out, do 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 do
And
do
everyone loves when
do
Patrick starts singing the song.
do. I mean, it's more effective than like literally just describing it.
This is true. This is true.
Like if I try to
Oh,
say the part at the chorus where the vocals go up and down.
it's possible.
Anyways, uh, yeah. No, I think the reason that they didn't get big is because this came out in 1993 when everyone was done with thrash, and also they're from like Missouri or something.
They've run into the Manila Road problem. They're from a place where no one's gonna get famous.
That's not the Manila Road problem. The Manila Road problem is the vocals, and they have not run into
They're
that
from
problem.
Kansas.
Manila Road are bigger than Anacrusis for some reason. Why are Manila Road bigger than Anacrusis?
Because Anacrusis is like a thrash band, and the Manila Road you can put on the radio.
You could easily put Anacrusis on the radio. Are you kidding me?
That's true. You definitely could. I don't know, man.
Anyways.
They were too late for their time, I guess.
Yeah, that's what
They
it
were either
is.
too late or too early. They were just
They
in
were
the
too
wrong
late.
time period.
Yeah, I mean, when they started out, the early '80s, they put out a bunch of albums before that. They were much more in the traditional like progressive thrash metal band, whereas they evolved into something that was clearly, you know what it is? It's post thrash. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's like
I
post
didn't know that
punk
was a
and
thing.
thrash. That's, I mean, I'm just coming up with the term for it. I'm describing it. Some people call groove metal post thrash, but this isn't really a groove metal album for the most part. It's just an album that takes thrash technique and applies them to a purpose which is more like heavy metal or progressive metal, but also uses elements of like post punk and things like that.
Yeah, I can accept that.
But yeah, just listen to it, man. This is way up there as far as
Pretty good.
yeah. Dark Heresy is good, but Screams and Whisters by Sense of Wilderness. That's pretty
Screams and Whisters. What's a whister?
Screams and Whiskers, like cat whiskers, or like the
That's not what the album's
It's
called,
Screams and Whispers.
which is honestly another very well-fitting title.
Yes, but that's well fitting for this album because dynamics.
Yes. It fits that album very, very well.
There's actually screams and whispers on this album, like literal screams
Yes.
and whispers. So, yes.
That is pretty literal.
Yes.
So shall we gush more about Anacrusis or should we move on?
I'm finished gushing for now.
For now. Okay, cool. So the next band is one I picked. It's The Great Discord, probably the newest band on this list. They're a band from Linköping, Sweden. They come out of the same like group of people that Ghost came out of, and they may or may not have formed as a couple of people who were no longer a part of Ghost. Decided to start their own band. May or may not. I'm not saying that that's a thing. Who knows? But yeah, they are. I think they're the first female-fronted band we've talked about in any remote length, right?
Probably. We've only passingly mentioned Hailstorm, I think.
And we talked about Code Orange briefly, but I wouldn't
Oh
say
yeah, no,
Reba's
we
the
talked
front
about Code
woman.
Orange for a while, man.
Okay, so the second female-fronted
Yeah, the
band we've
first
talked
one is
about.
Code Orange. Yeah, we talked about Code Orange for a while, man.
That's right. So the Great Discord is another progressive metal band. They're kind of like Tool meets Ghost meets like Killswitch Engage.
Yeah, but they're
That's kind of
heavier.
the
They've
vibe they
they've
go for.
got something heavier going on, like in the
Yeah,
vocals.
there's something much heavier than all of those bands.
I listen. Normally, I hate stupid genre levels like what like Tankard calling themselves beer metal, or Immortal calling themselves like frozen Northern Holocaust metal or some shit like that.
Is that what they call themselves?
I think it's just Holocaust metal, which is terribly insensitive.
That's horrible. That's terrible.
um,
For shame, Immortal. For shame.
yeah, but I know what they mean. It's just they're being generic. They're just talking about any kind of Holocaust, not the Holocaust. But
For shame, Immortal.
yeah, still, I think they call themselves black metal now. I think that the reason they didn't call themselves black metal is because they were scared of what Euronymous would say if they called themselves black metal when they weren't writing about Satan. Now Euronymous is
Perhaps.
dead, so who cares? But Tankard calling themselves something like beer metal or some shit like that.
Well, Tanker just isn't a good band.
Yes, but I just normally hate labels like that. I think the genre labels exist for a reason. But I can accept the progressive death pop label that this band has given themselves because it just
Yeah,
tells you what you need to know.
they're progressive death pop. That's what they call themselves. And
Any
it's pop in the sense of the
vocals.
Swedish pop rock sound, not the like actual pop sound.
The vocals
So
are pretty
they're
pop though. Like
that's true. So the woman is like a contra alto, and she's got a very I guess, poppy voice.
Yeah, she does.
She's very good though. Like not in a bad way.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
like she's a terrible singer. She's a good singer, clearly, but at the same time, it's a little weird to hear those pop conventions in metal. But I can look past it on Dune Day. I was not able to look past it on the next album they have. But
yeah.
their
So
first album,
their second album is pretty mediocre. It's got a handful of very strong tracks, but
it
then the
feels
rest of
like the
it's kind of
pop
meh.
is emphasized. It feels like they took.
Yes.
It feels like they took what were supposed to be pop tracks, and then found a way to like fit crazy death metal tech death riffs in the back.
Yeah, I think
Whereas
that's what they did in the second album.
But the first album's the reverse. They got
Yeah, the
crazy death
first.
metal riffs, and then they found a way to get pop vocals over it.
So the way that the Great Discord kind of works is, at least on Duend, I think that's pronounced. I might be wrong. They've got you know crazy, very fast metal riff, maybe with some blasting or just really complicated drumming. Then like My Curse intro with the girl swooning over it, and then they explode again, and then they do something kind of strange, and then the song's over. And the next song will begin with something kind of strange. You'll just do it backwards.
And it's
And
not
there's occasionally piano.
it's not as melodic as you think it is from the way we're describing it too. It's
No, it
it's like
really isn't.
it's usually very there. I mean, there's moments, but like it's usually very dark. It's usually much more dissonant melodies, and it only rarely gets into pretty ear candy stuff.
Yes, and that's really exclusively for the choruses. And
Yeah,
even then, the choruses can be like in odd modes. Like they use Phrygian quite a bit.
yeah. So
So
it's pretty
yeah,
dark.
each song is supposed to represent some sort of emotion.
hmm
Like so, there is a happy song that's
Yeah,
Illuminate.
yeah.
That's the
Illuminate. I was
happy
gonna
song.
say that one was much more
That's the happy song.
upbeat. Yes.
But it's not bad for like being a super happy song.
No, I liked it. I like having pretty stuff and all that kind of stuff. I'm just describing that it was
Yeah.
darker than I would have anticipated. Um,
So I do want to touch on one thing. My all-time favorite thing about this band, apart from the drummer, because the drummer is spectacular. Um, this is like one of two bands I've ever heard of with a female front woman where they don't try and make her a sex object and make that their whole gimmick. Like I can think of 8 or 9 metal bands off the top of my head that they've got a female singer. The female singer is effectively the logo of the band. They dress her like she's going to a Ren fair, and they parade her around like she's a sex
I
goddess.
can think of other bands that don't do that. Unfortunately, the Agonist is not one of them.
Yes. So
Even though we love the Agonist.
the Great Discord does the opposite.
Yes.
They have taken this woman who actually is pretty, like a pretty lady. She's not an ugly woman, but they make her look like a monster. She shaved her head. She wears this ridiculous headdress. She paints her face completely white, puts black contacts in, and then wears a black bodysuit and jumps around like a lunatic. She's terrifying. She's just wailing this nonsense. And I've always loved that about them. It's about it's about more than just, hey, look, we've got a female front person. Look how cool that is.
Yeah, man.
Here's this nut job who just so happens to be a female. That's how the Great Discord works.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
the next thing I want to talk about is the drumming on this album, because the drummer Axel Holmgren is spectacular. He just does so many complicated things, and they'll play a riff, and he'll play the drums it'll be like a riff that repeats. He'll play the drums one way the next one thing, then he'll change it completely the next riff. And he's an ambidextrous drummer. So he's like going all around this weird little kit doing crazy things. Like he'll be blasting, and then he'll be doing polyrhythms, and then he'll be doing something else. It's just such a complicated, and every drum beat he does is very well thought out.
The whole thing just has so much noodling, if you know what I mean. Like there's so many
Yeah,
knots in it, so many different things that are being done at the same time, but they managed to make it flow together.
everything is very thoughtfully constructed, and I think the album order is very thoughtfully constructed as well. The songs flow pretty well together.
Yeah.
So standout tracks, I would certainly say "The Aging Man's" a standout track. That was like the first single. It's the opening track on the record.
I'd say "Illuminate's" a standout track.
"Illuminate's" a good track.
Yeah.
I also like "Eigengrau." I think that track is like kind of their "Per Aspera ad Inferi," you know? It's
Is that the
their
one that has
fastest.
the growl thing in it?
No, that's Salfeta.
Uh-huh.
The one the Eigengrau's gang 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 baba na 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 na
I
na na
listened to it
na.
once. I got the general vibe more than anything.
Yeah, it's worth a re-listen for sure.
Oh, we
And
will.
you're gonna listen to the record if for those watching, and you'll be like, this probably isn't gonna be for me. I'm not. It's not elitist enough for me. But then you're listening, you're like, oh shit, this is actually kind of cool.
I don't necessarily think our audience is filled with elitists. I think our audience is filled with Brian and Vin.
And for the record, Brian loves this band. Brian, if you're watching this, you're welcome. We're talking about your favorite drummer, Axel Holmgren.
we forgot to tell him we were broadcasting, so we have no audience.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Shout out to Brian for like watching most of these streams.
Point of information: if you've ever listened to my band Mindraiser, you can hear a buttload of great Discord influence on the drums. Our drummer Brian is obsessed with Axel Holmgren's drumming, or at least he was when we were writing the music. And even though he says he's moved on in different influences, the Axel Holmgren's still there, really hard. Anytime Brian does something really complicated or like rhythmic, I'm like, oh, he's Axel Holmgren for 2 minutes. And he's even started trying to play like ambidextrous and hit his hi-hat with his left hand just to kind of emulate this guy.
Yes.
So and it's also cool that he was in Ghost. So
yes. That's probably how you found out about it.
That's absolutely how do you think I've heard about this band before the album came out?
Yeah. But in any case, are you done with Great Discord then?
Yes, I think we can move on to Ninganisu.
Yes, the real stars of the show here. No disrespect to any of the other bands. They're all great. But Ninganisu is a whole nother level. And they do not appreciate the reason they do not get the appreciation they deserve. And the reason they do not get the appreciation they deserve is because no one knows what any of their songs are called unless you speak Japanese.
Yes, Ninganisu is a band from the 80s from Japan, and they sound very much like Black Sabbath or Judas Priest. And there's a lot of weird, like, fun, proggy stuff they do, too. And they're awesome. And they even got moments where they're, like, as heavy as Metallica, if not heavier.
Yeah, they absorbed thrash, you know. They really took thrash to heart. But they just normally play classic metal. This is what Metallica is trying to do now, but they're failing.
Yeah. So, like, I would say, like, modern Ninganisu is, like, hardwired.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a bit proggier, but at the same time, a lot of the riffs are super simplistic and rudimentary in the same kind of way that Metallica riffs are. But they started in '87, but they didn't release like a full length album until 1990. So I would say, if anything, they're probably more from the '90s, you know, if anything. But honestly, to me, they're from now because they got a lot bigger now than I think they were. That's what my understanding. Because of the video for Heartless Scat. Because that video for Heartless Scat, which YouTube recommended for me. That's how I found out about them. It was just a YouTube recommendation for a bunch of kanji, and then Heartless Scat, and it was just like this bald white guy with white face paint, and he was doing. I was like, what is this? Is this baby metal? Is this? No, this is not baby metal. I clicked it, and I saw a bunch of old guys playing, you know, and that's fine. But when they got really heavy and turned into like sort of a thrashy doom metal thing, that's when I realized that that they
had something
they
there.
have something going here. They have something going here, and
And there's some real masterpieces.
okay,
Like they have quite a, like Heartless Scat's just scratching the surface. I
exactly.
think they definitely feel like that's their best song, but it
It's
really
not.
isn't
No.
because there's just so much stuff there that's really good.
Heartless Scat is absolutely solid though, and I could
Oh yeah,
understand how it's a good set closer.
they don't close with it.
They don't close with it.
No, they close with Namahage.
Which one is that?
Bow, ba ba now, ba ba now, no ba now, bow,
Are you
ba ba
kidding
now,
me?
ba ba boom, ba now.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's a horrible closer.
That's what they close with.
That one?
I believe so.
Oh my god. I'm upset. That's so wrong. Um, not that that's a bad song, but that is absolutely not how I would close a set. um,
So
but
I would like to point out one particular Ninganisu song for its just sheer quality,
yes,
and that would be The Caterpillar.
yes, that's the English translation of it, of course. All their songs are
I have no clue
Japanese
what
and
it
they're in
is.
kanji, so I don't even. We describe things in weird names between yourselves. Like we call some of the songs we call by their English names, but other songs we call by just like random things. Like there's this one song where the chorus is some word Tioga, and so we just call it Tioga to each other. The album we listened to is called
The one with the sun on it.
yeah, it's called 30th anniversary best album or something. We just call it the Sun.
The sun album, yeah.
Yeah, the Sun album. But the Caterpillar at least is the English translation, so that's good.
Yeah, so here's the story of the Caterpillar. The Caterpillar is a trip and a half. It
Yes.
begins with this kind of like psychedelic bass line and some like, guitar slides. And the guitar comes in with the octaves, so they're playing in unison. And there's this lovely little vocal line. Yeah, that type of thing.
Oh man,
It's very very odd, but that song just takes you on a journey,
yeah, man.
and it ends with this Black Sabbath-y kind of War Pigs sort of ending. Yeah,
Like the ending of Black Sabbath, if anything, you know,
yeah.
Black Sabbath, the song. You know,
So for
and
the
the
record, I
first,
believe all the songs we're talking about are on this record, right?
yeah, not Tioga.
Oh, Tioga is not on this record, but you should listen to Tioga anyway, because like Patrick said, it's the best Judas Priest song that wasn't written by Judas Priest.
Yes, yes, and it's like it's like in the top 10 Judas Priest songs, and it's not a Judas Priest song. It's a great Judas Priest song. Um, oh man, there's so much good stuff that isn't on the album though. But we'll talk mostly about this album for the sake of simplicity. The Caterpillar is on this album. It's also on their 2000 album, the one with the moon and the detective.
Yeah, that's the problem. Please translate your album titles, or at least put them in some sort of romantic language so we can listen to it. We want to be your fans. We want to know your songs. We can't read it. Please.
Yes, this is quite difficult. Um, one more reason to learn Japanese, though.
And for the record, I believe Tioga is on the one with the three
The
guys that look like
2017
Genghis
one.
Khan.
No, 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 no. It's the wait. I thought it's the one where it's the three guys. No, it's three guys that look like demons fighting each other. There's another one that has
Oh,
three guys, but it's them, and it's like a version of a famous painting, and they're drawn all traditional, like it's a.
yeah, no.
But there's so many albums with three guys because there's three of them.
But yeah, Tioga is on the 2017 album with the three guys that look identical to Genghis Khan, and they look
Yes,
identical to each other.
that is a
And
great album. highly recommend listening to the whole thing. Anyway, but go ahead and. I mean, there's no way for people to find Tioga.
What
Just
do you mean?
listen to, like, we're saying Tioga, right? And you're finding it's going to be on this album. Well, how do they know which song on that album is Tioga?
I'm going through to find out. Okay, it is track 7. Tioga is track 7 on their 2017 album.
Yes, listen to track 7 on their 2016 album.
2017.
It's made so much harder by the fact that they have like 19 albums or something, and they're all great.
Yeah, they make like an album a year, pretty much. They barely skip any years.
Dude, there's so much.
These guys are nuts.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, I was on the compilation, and I was like, I want to find the one that Color Out of Space is in, or the one that Love Nirvana is in. And then I found out, oh no, it's original to this compilation. What?
Oh yeah, on the compilation album, there are a handful of songs that are just original songs.
Yeah, they're just new for the compilation. And there's some of the best Ninganisu songs sometimes.
My favorite Ninganisu song is just the first track of this compilation album.
And it's made just for the compilation album.
And it is a fixture in their live set. We need to be clear here. It is a fixture in their live set.
Yes, Life for Sale, which is Mindrazer's best song.
It is very, very close to what my band does.
It is extremely close to what his band does. It's crazy how close to what his band does is. But it's very thrash, clearly. Because sometimes Ninganisu is a thrash band. Sometimes they're a doom band that just has influence from thrash. Sometimes they're really just kind of a psychedelic rock band. Sometimes they're really
and sometimes they're Judas Priest.
And sometimes they're Judas Priest. And sometimes they're Black Sabbath. They're especially often they're Black Sabbath. But sometimes they're Voivod. Sometimes they're Crimson.
And you know what? For the shits of it, let's cover Breadfan and change the name and lyrics.
Yeah, and instead of like being about My Girl or something, it's like the Mountain of Terror and Needles or something like that.
Breadfan's about money.
Oh, okay. Still.
Yeah, so they made it about hell.
Yeah, they made it about hell.
Mountain of hell.
It doesn't feel like it's about hell. And then there's
if you're wondering what Ninganisu means.
The human chair, which is like some sort of famous literature. They do lots of Lovecraft references as well. Apparently, they reference Nietzsche and like Sartre and Camus and other stuff. They're all over the place. They're all over the place, like collecting Beatles records and doing. There's this weird form of Japanese comedy where a person is always sat down the entire time, and it's just a dialogue between two people. And they turn their head, and he does that in one of the songs. But the song is like about lovers' suicide on some sort of mountain, and it starts with like what would be a koto, but they're playing it on electric guitar, and it's 8 minutes long, and then they go into a thrash song.
So, just so we're on the understanding here, Ninganisu's lyrical themes, as according to Medlum, are literature, Buddhism, humor, eroticism, and history.
Yeah, they're all. Well, I mean, Love Nirvana.
Eroticism.
Have you seen the video for Love Nirvana?
I don't even know which one that is.
It's the one that's extremely simple and sounds the most like something out of Hardwire. The one that goes. Is
it on the compilation?
It is on the compilation. It's original to the compilation. Oh man, let's see. I won't recognize it, so I'm going to play it on Spotify. That's the only way we're going to be able to find this song. Oh, Ninganisu. Okay.
Really cool is they kind of have the same guitar tone as who am I thinking of? They have the same guitar tone as Black Sabbath did on 13, which is one of my all-time favorite guitar tones. So
yes,
they've got a great production value.
One.
Which track is it? What number?
Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's track 14.
So it's the first track on disc 2.
Yes, it is the first track on disc 2. You'll recognize it. Here we go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that song is clearly
That song could just be hardwired to self-destruct.
Yeah, it is. It's literally it could be hardwired to self-destruct. They've got the other thing about their lyrics is like whenever I've seen translations of their lyrics, they've always been really good. And you'd think that kind of thing wouldn't translate as much, but like the lyrics to Heartless Scat in English are really good. For instance, the lyrics to Caterpillar in English hit me hard, man. Um, Color Out of Space, same thing. Oh man, I love Color Out of Space. Color Out of Space has that section in the middle, you know, besides that crazy chorus, you know, all that Morse code YYZ type thing, and then the thrashing part. But the bridge of it, you know, where it gets just so Hand of Doom, and the bassist starts doing vocals. Apparently, the bassist was like the main vocalist for a certain period of Ninganisu, but they just alternate vocals all the
switch
time.
and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, the bassist has more of like a Lemmy type vibe to him, but it's like very very sinister, and it's more traditional. Like sometimes he goes, you know, that kind of thing where he stops on a vowel. Both of them sound extremely like traditional Asian singing to me. There's definitely elements of like traditional Japanese culture incorporated throughout Ninganisu, but also
They're a very Japanese band.
they're a very Japanese band, without being like baby metal, K-pop.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like they're not weeby. It's
They're
not
not.
like a weeby
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
I wouldn't like them if it was weeby.
Yes.
They're just
Japanese. They're
a band
samurai.
that
You know.
they have their culture, and they fell in love with Saxon and Judas Priest and Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
and just loved making music. And you know, if they wrote music in English and their song titles were in the romantic alphabet, we would all know their name and they'd be huge.
Yeah, but at the same
And
time,
also
then
they're
they
kind
wouldn't
of
be as
funny.
traditional. You know, they wouldn't be as traditional. They wouldn't have that vibe.
They would lose something if they sold out.
Exactly.
It was the same problem Sortilege ran into, because Sortilege could have gotten really big too, but they didn't want to play in English. They wanted to play in French.
But the thing is, I think now they have much more of a chance at it because people are way more fascinated with Japan in 2019 than they are in 1990 across the world.
Yeah.
And they, you know, Heartless Scat got big. It's a great introduction to Ninganisu, but this band just goes on forever. And
they're now they're playing all over the place now. You know, they did shows in London recently. So they have played in the U.S. before.
So with Ninganisu, the compilation is a great place to start. There are great songs that are original to it, and it's a lot of the greatest songs from all their albums. But by no means stop there, because I have yet to hear a bad Ninganisu song, first of all. And second of all, I could, besides that, I would say that their second album is really good. And their 1996 album, which I think is their fifth album, is really good. I haven't gotten through their entire discography. Their 2017 album is also really good.
Point of information: Ninganisu is going to be his most listened to band this year on Spotify.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I could just keep listening to them. It's hard for them to get old because they keep doing different things, you know, and they've got that classic metal sound that's just really re-listenable, you know. You know how you can listen to Black Sabbath for a long time? It's that, but there's more of it, and they do things that are more modernized and influenced by that, and they've got that, you know, cool Japanese touch. But yeah, it's hard to talk about. 1996. Have you heard the song where the chorus, where they say Black Sabbath?
No, did they say Black Sabbath?
Yes, they say Black Sabbath, and Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi and Bill Ward in it. There's only a few times when they say English words, so whenever they say English words, that's the title we're going to use.
It just sticks out, huh?
Yes. I'm going to list for fun the times I've heard Ningen Isu say anything in English. In Love Nirvana, they say Eros is Thanatosu. Eros is Thanatosu. That's pretty fun. There's this one folky moment in their 1995 album where the bassist says, "Sing it!" And it goes into la 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 la.
Sounds like the
Sing
Beatles.
it! Yeah, it does sound like the Beatles. That's what they do. But he says it like, sing it. Oh man, and you gotta sing it when he says that. You just gotta, man. There's Black Sabbath, which is weirdly most of their songs sound like Black Sabbath, but the one about Black Sabbath is super thrashy. But the
Which
chorus,
album's that one on?
it's on their 1999 one, which is their second best that I've heard so far, outside of the Sun album. So I highly recommend that album. It's the second to last track, is what we refer to as Black Sabbath. It's the one where they've got the three guys. It's them. It's a photo, and he's like tied up to a pole, and there are stones on him. And then the bassist has a katana, or I think it is, or some kind of weapon. Yeah. But he just says stuff in Japanese. Black Sabbath. It's got to be the bassist. His vocals are more funny. There's a certain go to the vocalist, to the bassist vocals, if you know what I mean. Like when the guitarist sings, it's very it's like if you got it's almost like if you got like a traditional Japanese version of Bruce Dickinson and that same version of Paul Di'Anno in the same band at the same time.
And then you got a guy who like is rather odd looking to play the drums.
Yeah, he's supposed to look like a yakuza, but
He looks like a used car salesman.
yes, he looks more like a gay used car salesman. But apparently that's what the yakuza look like.
No, he looks like a Japanese Danny DeVito is what he looks like. So you get Japanese dad wearing his traditional garb.
Yes, and he looks like the YouTube comment summarized it well. The Japanese, so here's what they're supposed to be in order. Guitarist is supposed to be a literary master of the Meiji period. The bassist is supposed to be a Buddhist monk, and the drummer is supposed to be yakuza. Is the way they're dressed. The way the YouTube comment described it, to just people who are totally untrained and know nothing, is in that same order: retired samurai, ancient demon, gay car salesman.
Yeah.
But it's great.
They're odd-looking guy. They're odd-looking men.
It's great, dude. It's absolutely great. Other things to mention. We didn't talk about how the bass just rumbles.
Oh yeah, he's got quite the boom boom kind of bass sound.
So prominent. It's great. It's one of the best bass tones in
When they're a power trio, they need it.
Yes, exactly. We also didn't talk about the crazy thing that the guitarist does, like only on maybe a third of songs. The way he just does very long slides rapidly next to each other. He will just move up 7 frets like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
which
is kind of one of his little signatures, which is something I appreciate because I'm also a big fan of sliding.
Yes, but like it's crazy. It's a totally different way of doing things. He usually just pulls it out in solos sometimes, but it's a totally different way of doing things because, you can only get it by doing that, but it runs counter to everything you're taught as a guitarist. You're taught to keep your hand in the same place, and just move up the string. But you can't do that if you want to do a slide effect. And to do rapid slide effects one after the other, it takes an entirely new set of skills. You know what I'm saying?
Problem with that.
He's a master of effects on his guitar. Like, he's crazy with the wah-wah effects and the choruses.
Yeah, he really uses a wah-wah well.
He really uses wah-wah well. There are
He
so
probably uses the bass wah actually, because his wah is not like a cracky wah. It's a
yeah,
very elastic wah, which is something I appreciate.
you know. Yes, they occasionally incorporate um, Japanese traditional instruments, but also like there's very little I would be surprised if I heard Ninganisu do. I heard them pull out a harmonica in one song. I've heard koto. I've heard like wooden blocks that you chop together, and I've heard gong and acoustic guitar, and I've heard theremin. He does a lot of theremin. Like
They're a band, man. That's for sure.
you can just go on. Ninganisu is a world unto itself.
I wish more bands had the balls to do what Ninganisu does, because they don't give a shit. They do whatever they want.
And they have not gotten any worse over the years. So they're 54, and they are just proving um, bands do not have to mellow out. If anything, they got harder and more.
They
extreme.
did get heavier.
Yeah, they got heavier as they got older. They didn't mellow out. So, yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah, man. I mean,
I could keep going, but I feel like that might try the patience of people.
yeah, I think we could gush about Ninganisu a little bit more, but it's probably not worth it. If you're not going to listen to it, you're just stupid because it's good.
Yeah,
How about that?
go ahead and listen to Ninganisu, and you'll.
So here's what I'm going to say. Of the bands, I would prioritize them in this order: Ninganisu, The Great Discord, Anacrusis, Barathrum, and Dark Heresy. That's how I'd prioritize it. How about you, Pat?
So I would literally there's a weird balance to this. I would literally just same tiers, but I'm prioritizing my pick at every step. You know what I'm saying? so I say Ninganisu, Anacrusis, The Great Discord, Dark Heresy, and then Barathrum.
Okay, so if you like my ideas better, you listen to the songs I picked. If Patrick's ideas better, listen to the songs he picked.
Okay, but the
Thankfully,
takeaway is
my
listen to a bunch of
bandmates listen to
Ninganisu.
this.
The takeaway is
Yeah.
listen to a bunch of Ninganisu because that's the clear
Ninganisu's
one
worth
here.
listening to.
Yeah,
Ninganisu's the obvious best band.
Ninganisu are legends. Ninganisu are at the same quality level of like Merciful Fate. They're not as influential,
Yeah.
but they're at the same level.
Yeah, I would say Ninganisu
Except
probably
consistent.
is in that quality lane.
Except consistent. It's like if Merciful Fate put out only Melissas.
Well, hold on. Don't Break the Oath is really good too, but Melissa is great.
They only, yeah, but don't. Melissa's better than Don't Break the Oath. Let's be real here.
I agree. Without any shadow of a doubt, Melissa is their best album.
Yeah.
I also put Melissa in the top 10 or best metal albums of the 80s. So,
I mean, if we classify them as a doom metal band, Ninganisu is my favorite doom metal band. If we classify them as a heavy metal band, if we
classify them as a doom metal band, does Black Sabbath count as a doom metal band?
No, I don't.
Okay, so Ninganisu is the clear winner.
Yes.
If we classify them as a heavy metal band, it's like Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath are tied for number 1.
Yes.
Then Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Then like Merciful Fate, and then Ninganisu.
And then Ninganisu, they're number 5.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the case. That's kind of it. I mean, seriously, they are that good. And King Diamond is in that category too.
Yeah, but who's higher than King Diamond?
As good as King Diamond.
I would put Ninganisu higher than King Diamond personally.
So let me put it this way: I think overall Ninganisu is better, but Abigail and Conspiracy and the song Welcome Home are better than Ninganisu. But everything else Ninganisu does is better than everything King Diamond does.
Fine. I think the thing about Ninganisu is there's so much consistency. You know?
Yeah, they're just so consistently good.
Yeah. So yeah, listen.
I want to talk about King Diamond now. King Diamond's so good.
We can talk about King Diamond at a later date.
Okay, so what do we want to talk about next week? What do you think the fans will want to hear?
We want to go back to that thread of live sets, possibly.
That could be something we could do. We also have been alluding for weeks. Now we are going to discuss why Ghost doesn't suck. So I think we need to do that soon.
Ghost is 6, by the way, after Ninganisu.
For heavy metal bands?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Ghost is the like sixth best metal band. Heavy metal band, not
Yes.
metal band. That's wrong.
Nin
That's just
Genisu-
wrong. They're not the sixth best metal band.
Yes, but Ninganisu is yeah, really good, really good. So we will talk. I mean, I don't know, whichever of the
We'll
two.
put it as a poll on our Facebook page.
Okay,
Ghost or live shows?
Ghost or what makes a live set great? What makes a great live
What makes
set?
what makes a great live set
Yeah,
list?
we were talking about set lists is what you wanted to
Or
focus
why
on.
Ghost doesn't suck?
Yes, yes. What makes a great? Okay, that sounds like a good pick.
And we've done all the research, so we don't need to do research on either of these topics.
I can still listen to more of the.
Yeah. Okay, you know what we'll do? We'll do the live sets this week. We'll do Ghost the week after.
Okay, sounds cool to me.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Perfect.
awesome. So
All right.
until next time, this has been Dialectic Chaos, and I am Patrick.
And I am listening to Repentant on Bandcamp, Nick DeFurio.
And see you. Listen to Repentant and Ninganisu.